Laziness doesn't exist. When you're not doing something that you know you should be doing or something that you want to be doing, it's for one of these 4 reasons: self-care, burnout, demand avoidance, or executive dysfunction. If you want to learn more about how self-care, demand avoidance, and burnout disguise themselves as laziness, let me know in the comments. But for this video, we're going to focus exclusively on executive dysfunction. One of the best explanations of executive dysfunction that I've ever heard comes from one of the best ADHD channels here on YouTube, How to ADHD with Jessica McCabe.
Hello brains, hello brains, hello brains.
She describes executive dysfunction as though your brain is a CEO who does not have a secretary. Think about that. A CEO usually has at least one secretary, if they don't have more than that, to schedule their appointments, to give them memos, to write one-page descriptions of very big, complex topics so that they can tackle it at meetings. The secretary helps prioritize, schedule, and run defense for the CEO. If your brain doesn't have a secretary to prioritize or schedule or deflect unimportant information, you're gonna end up really overwhelmed really quickly. And that's what executive dysfunction feels like for a lot of us. Hi there, my name is Megan, and this is the Neurocuriosity Club, the only YouTube channel that I'm aware of, specifically made for people who think they might be autistic, they might be ADHD, but they're just not sure. Let's get curious about our brains together. Okay, so what are some of the classic signs that you're not actually some lazy piece of shit and you're actually experiencing something called executive dysfunction? Sign number 1 is that if it were easier in some way, you would do it in a heartbeat. You just don't know what to do to make it easier. People who experience executive dysfunction often feel like there's a giant brick wall in between them and the task they're trying to accomplish. And if we could just tear down the wall, we would do it, but we have no idea how you're supposed to go about doing that. Because at the end of the day, the brick wall is just a metaphor. The reality is we don't really understand what's in our way between us and the task. It's just this vague sense of wrongness. And it makes everything really hard to do. Sign number 2 is that it's not just your chores or your homework or unpleasant things that you're avoiding. You can't seem to make yourself do the stuff you want to do. This includes video games or reading a book or going for a walk. You just can't seem to make yourself do anything. This leads me into sign number 3 that you're not lazy, and that is that you actually appear lazy all the time. Think about it. Even if laziness did exist, it's really unlikely that someone would be lazy 100% of the time in 100% of contexts. There has to be something else going on. So if you're the kind of person who people always accuse you of being lazy, or you always feel like you're being lazy, that just doesn't make sense. Laziness, if it exists, is supposed to be a temporary condition. If it's permanent, there's something else happening. Now, other folks might relate a little more to sign number 4, which is that you only appear lazy at home. At school, at work, you're a superstar. You're on top of it. You can do anything if there's a deadline and a gold star attached to it. But at home, where you have tasks that aren't one-offs like a test or a big project, but instead are tasks that recur and you have to do over and over and over forever, like laundry and dishes and childcare, those things you tend to really struggle with, and it makes you feel really lazy, when in reality, that is signature executive dysfunction. Sign number 5 that you are not lazy and it's actually executive dysfunction is that you feel super intimidated. Maybe you're facing down a really big task like I am right now, and you're feeling like you can't even start because you have no idea how it's gonna end or how you're gonna survive the middle, and all of it just feels like way too much. Yeah, that's not laziness. Laziness, again, does not exist, but if it did, it would be simply choosing not to do something because you don't feel like it. It doesn't come with all that anxiety. Sign number 6 is that you can't decide what to do. This is where that secretary who schedules and prioritizes things for you would come in super handy. So many of us who experience executive dysfunction, we want to do so many things. In fact, we want to do so many things that we don't know where to start, and we end up really stuck. And finally, sign number 7 that you are experiencing executive dysfunction is that you want to do the thing, and you are simply unable to, even if you can't identify the reason you're unable to. Actually, maybe especially if you can't identify a reason you're unable to do the thing. For some reason, our society has decided that if you can't explain why you can't do something, then you're just being lazy. But this just isn't true. A lot of times, the stuff we can't explain is like subconscious or even unconscious. It's not available to our conscious mind, and therefore it's actually usually deep stuff that's going on, not something simple like you're just not trying hard enough. Think about it. If you were able to do all of the things you wanted to do, what would your life look like? Would you look like a couch potato who does nothing? Or would you look like this super active, involved person? Odds are it's probably the second one. Most of us want to do things, we just struggle to do them. And the explanation for that is not always laziness. In fact, I'm gonna argue it's never laziness. It's executive dysfunction, burnout, demand avoidance, or just straight up self-care. Again, if you want a video explaining why you're not lazy, it's actually burnout, or why you're not lazy, it's actually demand avoidance, let me know in the comments. I would be happy to make those. And I'll see you next week.